Okay, we're going to talk about time errors. Every so often you'll get a server where the time will change. Players will log in and it'll be daylight when actually in the server it's nighttime, and it might take 5 minutes for them to suddenly switch to the correct time. Or you'll just see sudden flashes of light as the time changes. This is, I don't know if it's a real common error, but it does happen, and it's easy to occur. And one file that I've got open here right now is the Hive ext.ini, which is located in your configuration folder on your server. This is where you set like the time that when your server starts. So when the DayZ server starts, I have this set up to start at 2 p.m. So at restart 2 p.m. and that's the last time this file is ever referenced. But there's also to set the date. I can change the date to be a static date, or it will use whatever is on the server. Since mine is commented out, it's going to use whatever the day is on the server. And if it's such as today is May 31st or June 1st or something like that, that would be the day in the game. And if it was January, it would be January, and therefore it would reflect the time differences. In August, it gets dark at 9 o'clock at night. In January, it gets dark at 5 o'clock. So you can see that the day that is set has a big effect on the actual light. Mine's set to start at 2 o'clock, so if it's running for 3 hours, and the date is actually set to January, 3 hours later it's going to be dark. If it's set to August, 3 hours later it's still going to be bright sunshine and sun's up in the air. So what happens is there's multiple settings that are not in sync, and we'll find them. Close this up and we'll look on our DayZ Overwatch. Let's see, DayZ Overwatch, and we'll go into our DayZ server. These files that you're going to find are in your DayZ server. I'm going to open up any folder here, any file, just so I can use the search function. So now I have Notepad++ open, and I hit Control F to open up the search, and I'm going to find in files. What I want to find is set date. This is the function that Arma uses to set the date, and it's supposed to be transmitted from the server to all the players. So if I do find in files, now the other thing I want to do is I have to find it in a certain folder. This is already set here, but the way to find it in the folder is you right click on the file that's open. That's why I went to the DayZ server and opened up a file in the location that I want to search. So now I have a reference, so I don't have to type it in or look for it. I right click on the file and I come down here to current directory path to clipboard. Now I can paste that right here, and I have it. Now I got this server functions out of the init folder, but I want to search the whole DayZ server. So now when I hit find all, it shows all the files. It's commented, highlighted for me, and it's in one. Well, it tells me four different files. So if I click right here, this file will open up. Whoops. And as you can see, this is in send to client and DayZ set date. There is no actual date configured right here. This is actually a function that actually tells the client, the public variable tells the client to set the date. So this is actually a function to help set the date, but it doesn't set the date to a particular day or time. So now here the next one is the OW cleanup. This is Overwatch specific. If you are not running Overwatch, you're not going to have the OW cleanup SQF file. And you can see right here set date underscore date. And so this is actually setting a date, but where is it getting this date? The date is from the result select one. That means that's a Hive read write. This is getting the date from the server. So in this OW cleanup SQF file, whatever the date is in our Hive ext.ini, that's what this is going to return as a date. So if the date is set to January, this is going to return to January, and I would presume the date is also the time. Now I think the way this works, I haven't really paid attention to this in depth. I've never really had to, but I would say that the this keeps track on the server of the time running. So this is probably a more correct date function. Now, server cleanup. The OW cleanup runs after the server cleanup. So the server cleanup SFM runs first. And now you can see right here, these are always a little bit harder to read in here. There's an actual FSM editor you can get from the Armor 2 website that brings this up in a nice little flowchart. And when you click on each thing, it'll tell us right here, all right, sync the time, and then if you do this, then you sync you do this other thing, whatever. And when you click on it, it's got a nice little normal code instead of all this stuff that's kind of hard to read. But as you can see right here, this sets the date to date 1, just like our OW cleanup file did, except this gets the date, same thing, from the child 307. But then, right, yep, it uses the year, the month, the day, the hour, and the minute. It gets from here. But then it sets the date to be 2 and then after the minute. So every time this server cleanup file runs, it's going to set the date to be 2:10, 2:20, whatever the actual current minute is. It's using the actual current minute from the server, but it's going to set it to be June 6th at 2 p.m. in minutes, and then it sends that to the client. So we have one time where it's telling us that it's going to be, I forget what it said in the HiveExt. Let's see. Oh, well, we didn't have a date set. So whatever it is, whatever the actual current day is, that's what that says. But now it's setting it to June 6th, so the time the daylight hours may vary depending on the hours. But this is the main problem right here. This should always be hour, so that it actually pulls the time from the hour and the minute needs to be pulled from the server so that it progresses. Because this here would be, the server cleanup runs every 5 minutes or so, and it would every 5 minutes set the hour back to 2 o'clock. It'll never be 3 p.m. It'll never be 4 p.m. So, and that's what happens is sometimes you'll log in, and when you get a player sync, it sets the date to be one time, and then the server cleanup comes along and sets it back to 2 o'clock. So that's one spot. That needs to be hour, minute, and I would always have this being the same date. As pick a day that you want to run your server at, set it to this, and that's why it says Force Full Moon Nights. They've picked a day that is a full moon. So in your HiveExt, you should set that to be 2012-6/6. You set this to be 2012-6/6, and then again in the server monitor. Here's the server monitor, and you see, by doing the search, I don't have to. I just click down here and open up the files. I don't have to worry about where they are. Now look right here, Force Full Moon Night. But this is 2013, August 3rd. Now see, this pulls the minute out correctly. So this will set on the server monitor. It'll set the hour and the minute correctly from the server. But then when the server cleanup runs, this here was set to 2. It would set it back to 2 o'clock. So this here would actually be reversed. This here, if it was, say, 8 o'clock at night, the server monitor would run. It would set the client to be 8 o'clock at night. And then 5 minutes later, when the server cleanup runs, it would set it back to 2. So it would be suddenly bright daylight. If you start with bright daylight and then get dark, you probably have it reversed. But the server cleanup's the file that runs every 5 minutes. So if your time changes every 5 minutes, this is the error. But what the bottom line, the takeaway message is, select a date and a year. Set that. That has to match in your server cleanup, your server monitor, and your hive.ext.ini. And in the server cleanup in the server monitor, make sure it says hour and minute, so that pulls the current hour and minute as time progresses throughout the game. See, this one here was correct, though. But the main problem with this file is that the two dates are different. And August 3rd at, even if these hours and minutes were correct, on August 3rd at 8 o'clock, it's the sun's still shining. June 6th, it's probably sunset. So you would get a visible change in the brightness. So that's your fixes. Server monitor, server cleanup, hive.ext.ini, all in the DayZ server PBO. And the way to find those is to search, find in files. You type set date, and in the directory. Remember, right click on the file, current directory to clipboard, and then copy paste. And like I say, it gets the subdirectory. I don't need to look in the system. I want to look in the whole server PBO. So same way, you can always look in your if you had all of your files in here, your server PBO and your mission PBO in the DayZ Overwatch like I do, I could move up here and I could find it in every file, both the mission and the server, if I didn't know where the set date parameter was. And as you can see, still 4 files, so same place. So there you go. Oh, except what did I search for? I searched for 2013. Okay, it's your time fix.